Authorities in northern Gaza say at least 29 Palestinians have been killed in the latest Israeli airstrikes. Israeli forces are pushing deeper into the Jabaliya area, ordering people there to leave. As the ground and air assault intensifies, aid agencies are warning that thousands in that area are trapped.
On the move again. The Israeli military has ordered these people to evacuate the Jabaliya refugee camp. They're forced to pack up what little they have and flee. They're headed south to Gaza City, but they're not convinced they'll find safety there either.
This could be the 20th time or more that we have been displaced. This morning, the Israeli army dropped leaflets ordering an evacuation. There was random shelling. They have spared no one. I don't know where to go because of the indiscriminate bombing, the displacement and destruction.
Gaza's Hamas-run Interior Ministry has urged residents not to leave, telling them to remain in the north of the enclave. But the situation there is worsening by the day. On Friday, Israeli airstrikes hit a residential building in Jabaliya, home to Gaza's largest refugee camp. And ground fighting has also intensified, with Israel sending more troops into nearby towns. The Israeli military says it launched its offensive in northern Gaza last week to prevent Hamas from regrouping there. In the evacuation order, it said, "The IDF is operating with great force against the terrorist organizations and will continue to do so for a long time. The designated area, including the shelters located there, is considered a dangerous combat zone." The message stressed that people should head south to safety. But the United Nations says nowhere is safe, and severe shortages of food, fuel, and medical supplies mean the situation is deteriorating quickly.
We're joined now by DW correspondent Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. Good to see you, Tania. What more can you tell us about the situations for civilians in this Jabaliya area right now?
Well, I think it's probably very hard to describe in words. I mean, we've been reaching out to some people. The communication lines are also very difficult, and they're saying there's a constant fear of death, and they're simply exhausted. Many of them have been displaced over the course of the past year. Many times also in northern Gaza. Many have opted to stay for various reasons in the north. They have been called upon many times to leave and to go south. Now we know that the Israeli military has said that they have launched this ground operation about a week ago because Hamas and other militant groups are regrouping. But for civilians, it is a total disaster because they also have been, of course, called upon to leave those areas. And we also understand from what they are telling us that there are also airstrikes in other areas of northern Gaza. Now, we understand from the United Nations that over 400,000 people are believed to be in northern Gaza. And the World Food Programme has said that the food aid that has been usually supplied there has not been going in since the beginning of October, and they're saying they're not quite sure how long these supplies will last, that they had been distributed in those shelters. So a very, very difficult situation for people there in the north.
Tania, you paint the picture of the Israeli army pushing deeper since a week into these areas near Jabaliya. What is Israel trying to accomplish there? And do we get a sense of how close they are to achieving what it is that they want?
Well, we've seen this over the course of the past year. Now the war is entering its second year. Several times that the Israeli military returned to areas they have said they have under control. And this is also what we are seeing in Jabaliya, but also other areas, Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, all in the north of Gaza City. And that they're returning, what they're saying is regrouping of militant groups, Hamas and other militant groups. And military analysts here have said this is also due to to a lack of plan for the day after. But there's also a lot of discussion here in recent weeks. There are some plans that are discussed here in the Israeli media that are reportedly also discussed by the government. We have no confirmation of that, that have surfaced, that are plans that are very controversial to push more of the residents that are still in the north out to the south. Those plans are called the General's Plan, starving out some of the people that are still there to get to those militants. Now, the military has denied that they have put such plans in motion. We haven't had any confirmation yet from the government, but Palestinians, of course, are following this very closely and are very concerned because so far those people who have been crammed into the south, and about 90%, that's an estimate by the United Nations, of the 2.2 million people in Gaza, the whole of Gaza, residents there, have been displaced multiple times, and many of them are now in the south but are unable to go back north.
DW correspondent Tania Krämer in Jerusalem, thank you. Now, the Israeli army says it has intercepted around 5 projectiles fired from Lebanon so far today. The rockets triggered sirens in several northern areas of Israel, including in and around the port city of Haifa. On Saturday, the Israeli military said Hezbollah fired around 320 rockets from Lebanon into Israel during the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. Now, the attacks come as Israel steps up its offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon, putting UN peacekeeping forces there in the line of fire. That force, called UNIFIL, has accused the Israeli military of deliberately firing on its positions. It says at least 5 peacekeepers were wounded at its headquarters in Naqoura. France has summoned the Israeli ambassador over the incident, and US President Joe Biden said he was in touch with Israel, asking them not to hit the UNIFIL forces. Now, Andrea Tenenti represents UNIFIL, the United Nations force in Lebanon. He described the recent attacks, which injured several of his colleagues.
The peacekeepers that have been injured, they are recovering. One was more seriously injured, but they're all okay. The situation, of course, is highly concerning because our positions and peacekeepers have been hit several times in the last several days. So in addition to peacekeepers being injured, we have our bases been hit, cameras, communication system, illumination. So very, very serious, especially after the Israeli forces told us several days ago they asked us to move from certain positions along the blue line, and we have a large number of bases and positions along the blue line, but the decision was taken to stay, and we are still on the ground. The shelling and the bombing is ongoing. Our peacekeepers are inside the bases. Is important, it's paramount importance to ensure safety and security of our troops. So we have very limited capabilities at the moment, but we are still operating. We are still reporting to the Security Council. We do have radars that are able to see and monitor the shelling and the bombing of these days. So there is still an international presence in the south, and we're still trying, which is the most important thing at the moment, to coordinate humanitarian activities in the south, where thousands of people are stuck inside villages without basic needs. So it's very difficult because we don't get reassurances of safety, but we are trying to do that.
That was Andrea Tenenti from UNIFIL.